States of America.
That's it.
Well,
no sound effects for some reason.
Why not?
I am totally unprepared. Sorry, folks. Anyway, welcome to Free Speech Radio here on 990WBOB.com. I am the chef cooking up some freedom for you tonight. What is tonight? September.
Are you going to tell me? Are you going to tell me we don't have any sound effects at all?
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Rabbi, how you doing over there? Already complaining.
I'm doing all right. That's right. I'm on the good seat today, so I can complain more than I usually do.
Oh, I found out the problem here. So just hope it works.
Oof, all right. I want to hear some sounds.
Okay.
All right. Are we ready to go? Or are we going to say this?
Don't forget about the sounds for now. Anyway.
This has been one mad rush to get this show on.
Yes. I'm sweating right now.
I know.
Anyway, we the people around went down to Occupy Providence, down in downtown Providence, where a bunch of individuals are all pissed off in their popping tents down at Burnside Park. Is that right? How would you describe this movement that's going on there right now?
I would describe it as the biggest and most explosive grassroots expression movement that I probably will have seen in my lifetime. I'm serious.
Here.
I mean, this is happening all over the world at the same time. It's literally exploded, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that people are angry and they're looking for a healthy outlet for their anger. That's what I think.
1,668 cities around the world. That's a lot of people, a lot of demographics, a lot of people who are angry with what's going on right now.
Yeah, so the rabbi and I went down to Occupy Providence.
Explain to them who I'm not really a rabbi, just so you know.
And I'm not really a chef, by the way. But we have several people here from Occupy Providence. And they all have their own certain in particular views about why they're participating in this movement that's making incredible amount of news footage. First thing on the news, what do you hear?
Right now, Occupy Providence.
All right, let's go right down.
Nice.
Let's go right down the line here and
We'd like to hear that.
And introduce everybody.
Start with me. I'm Jay. Jay Wills. I got involved here just, kind of on a fluke, though I've always been kind of into that consciousness, kind of like regenerative America movement. I was just walking down the street and I saw a group of people sitting by a statue and I just stopped, curious, and I've been hooked ever since.
Nice. Jay, where are you from?
I just moved here from Seattle. I make music.
Very good. All right. Who's next there?
I'm James Brabson. I also brand new to Providence.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was out in Portland back in '99 for the World Bank and World Trade Center, World Trade Organization protests and riots, and have been watching Occupy New York very closely. And now that it's out in Providence, had to come out, had to come support.
Very nice. Next.
Hi, I'm Sara Grimm. I'm a senior at Brown University, and my thesis work and everything I've sort of studied in my life up till now is becoming alive because of this movement. And I was there at the first meeting on campus 2 days after Occupy Providence started, 3 days, 4?
4 days.
4 days. 4 days after Occupy Providence started, we had the luck to have a few Occupy Providence members come up and help us organize sort of an idea of being an occupation at Brown. So that's being, I don't know, the students are getting mobilized, everyone's getting mobilized, and I love it. So that's why I'm here.
Oh, very nice.
All right.
That's me.
Hooray.
Okay.
Yes.
My name's Mark Simmons. If you're not from Rhode Island, that's Mark, M-A-R-K, not Mac. Everyone asks. I'm a resident of Providence, Rhode Island, have been since 2002. I was at the first, what could even be described as pre-General Assembly meeting, which was a Saturday with maybe just like 12 people in attendance, and helped organize. I'm part of the working group that helps set the agenda for the General Assembly, which is Occupy Providence, and helped form Occupy College Hill.
Nice.
He helped a lot.
Helped a lot.
Yeah.
And so did Jay, which is why I asked them to come.
Can you just explain what the General Assembly is? Because the reason why we've gone crazy trying to get this show together is there has been a lot of misunderstanding in the public. They don't quite understand what's going on. So we said, you know what, we the people of Rhode Island, we're into free speech. We want to educate people on what's going on. And so that they can understand and participate if they so desire.
Righteous.
What is the General Assembly? Because that's a term that you'll hear if you go down there.
Okay, the General Assembly, or as we refer to it as the GA, is just the body of people who have chosen to participate in Occupy Providence. It's the participation. Your participation doesn't it's your comfort level with that you need to deal with participating. There are several working groups that make up the general body of the General Assembly. You don't have to, as a member of the General Assembly, which is just basically, your neighbor, the person down the street. It doesn't matter what level of activism you've ever taken part in, or if you've never. It's just people who have joined together for a common cause, who vote on issues related to Occupy Providence, and who sometimes take 3 hours to come to consensus on what actions we take as Occupy Providence. It's just the General Assembly is the people. Which would, I guess, to sum it up very simply, which I could have just done by just saying the people, it's the people. We're the General
It's the democratic process.
Yes.
A popular manifestation of the democratic process. It's like anybody is welcome to come and participate and be heard, put your proposals forth towards the committee, and have it be voted on and ratified within the General Assembly. You don't need any, like you said, you don't need any sort of background at all. It's basically our decision-making forum, but we do have working groups that decide on more specific matters. So if there's a matter that you need to have taken care of, you can go to, say, facilitation or direct action or media, and they can handle it. You don't have to take it to GA, but generally it's for general stuff that affects the entire group, and that's what it's about.
One of the things that I'd probably like to suggest for anybody who wants to find out more about it, to go down there and hang around for a while.
Yes, do.
Don't try to just jump right in. Hang on for a while, learn what's going on, learn the different committees, what's happening, watch a couple of GA meetings. They'll explain everything before the meeting. In fact, I hope one of you maybe can explain the hand gestures, because we're filming this for television as well. You'll see hand gestures which are not familiar to you.
No more. I want to see the head.
fucking sick of
You'll
jazz
see how they use it. They have a mic.
No, we won't do those.
We won't do those? Okay.
No, we'll do them. We'll do them.
All right. There's a group mic, which I think is very effective in large crowds, where you can't use megaphones, or perhaps are prohibited from using megaphones. We do want to say at this point that the city and the police are currently cooperating
Yeah, they are.
with the movement. They are not. They are letting it operate without a permit. They are letting food being served and so forth and so on. They're really bending over backwards, in my opinion, to cooperate. How long that will continue remains to be seen, but we do want to stress this is a non-violent, drug, alcohol-free movement. So if you think this is a party where everybody's going to go down there and everyone's getting stoned and have a party, that ain't what's happening down there. You'll find the group is very sincere in addressing concerns which are affecting every home in America right now, which is the economy, economic abuses, bank abuses, government abuses, and you'll find all kinds of people down there. And I promised, just so in case they're watching, there's even a socialist group down there that promotes socialism, that has their own table. I promised them that I would, say that they were there, because even though I take issue with what they say, they are down there also stating their opinion.
Yes,
so
they are.
maybe we can do that. Just explain the hand gestures quickly for the audience.
Sure. Okay. So because we actually enjoy the idea of participation, but we realize that sometimes clapping and booing disrupts the process, we have adopted what can be a form of communication which is just brought up into hand signals. So if you happen to like something or you feel really excited about something and we ask that you don't clap, you can wiggle your hands somewhere around your head.
To the sky.
Yep. Or
fingers up.
Or like this.
Fingers up. Jazz
fingers,
hands.
Or fully extended arms. Just that it's a great way to get the crowd jazzed into like figuring out like who agrees with something, who's excited about something. And then
Not interrupting the speaker.
correct. And then if you're feeling so about an issue that it could go either way with you, you sort of palms down, sort of wave your fingers, like, sort of like that. And then if you disagree with something that someone's saying, you just hands down like that.
Jazz hands in reverse.
It's giving the speaker instant feedback
Yes.
on how they're being
hands.
reacted to.
So there's also point of clarification, which is forming a C. So since not everyone may understand a point that's being made, we ask them to throw up the C. So it's the point of clarification, which you're asking for clarification on what's being said. There's also point of info. So let's say the Rev has just made an announcement, and maybe Jay, somebody's asked a question, and Jay has the information that the Rev may not have. It is the Rev, right?
No.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I am a minister, but don't use the title, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's the number one. It's the point of info.
The point.
Of info. And then
Index finger.
index finger, yes. It's the number one. It's the only time you see one. And then if we suddenly become off topic, there is the point of process, which is your hands forming a triangle, or sometimes sort of a diamond,
Yeah.
but anything that sort of creates a point so we can get the topic back on track. And
there was one other, if somebody
so let's say if I keep on rambling on and I'm making my point several times and using different words, but everyone knows I'm making the same point, just continually talking. And, I'm talking about hand signals, and we're really getting tired of talking about hand signals because I just love hand signals so much. I mean, they're exciting. They really have defined who I am as a human being.
But not as much as some of the other stuff.
Yes. So rolling your arms is the move on or wrap it up.
I went down there and I was quite amazed. I did not expect anything, and what I saw, I thought everybody was like doing signs for the deaf, the hand signals for the deaf, and I was like, what's going on over here?
And then, actually, the final one, which I forgot to mention because it's the most contentious one, is the block. So that means if let's say we're making a proposal or voting on something, and it's something that will actually, that you are so against that it will force you to leave the group, never returning, defriending everyone off Facebook, never having any contact with anyone ever again. It's sort of the crossed arms, which is the block.
It's a very serious move to be used
Sparingly.
only sparingly.
And it's one of the most, I think, probably during a vote, one of the most important ones.
Now, I'd like to say at this
keep it
point,
going.
I talk to a lot of people that are very angry about this movement. And the anger, I don't quite understand, quite frankly. You want to address that?
I think
Did you, was your
Yeah.
hand? Okay.
So I think I can understand the anger because I think that it comes from misunderstanding of what we stand for and what Occupy stands for. And I think that's why it's so important to be doing radio shows like this, and I wanted to thank you for that, because it's really a matter of, like with any other social justice cause I've ever encountered, first things first, you have to spread awareness and be very clear about what you're about. And the way I see it is that this is a dialogue, and it's meant to incorporate the 100%, not just the 99%, but everyone, and a very unified and very love-based dialogue. That's how I'm interpreting it. Interpreting. Pardon my English. So,
You did say you went to Brown.
No, they're not.
Yes, I know.
Hey, watch it.
I'm sorry. You don't know me yet. I'm sorry. I should have held back.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
Okay.
But I think another reason, I guess, for the people that I've encountered that are sort of very skeptical about it is that there's a lot of conception that we are organizing based off of solely grievances and solely demands, and solely sort of these sort of angry remarks and angry statements and this is what we want, but in an angry tone, and that's definitely not the truth in my opinion, because it's a lot more than just these angry words that are being proliferated. It's a lot of planning, it's a lot of ideas, it's a lot of consideration of what kind of culture we want to create for the future of the USA. I mean, I'm personally very embarrassed when I go abroad and our culture is so dominated by corporate interests, and everyone knows, and they're like, that's why you don't have like interdisciplinary arts and popular culture the way we have in Latin America, because there hasn't been as many popular movements. I don't know. So I'm really, really 100% behind it.
Anyone else have an idea where this anger is coming from?
It's like a divide and conquer thing. Like they try to define something a certain way and then force you to either categorize it as one thing or categorize it as another thing, and then split you off and destroy you. It's like an old school. It's like the oldest war tactic that they've ever come against. Our basic line is that we are in unity. We represent humanity, and basically mostly the part of humanity that's been like screwed over by the people with lots of power, lots of influence, and have been that way for hundreds of years, not just the last 50, 60 some odd years. And just this generation, a lot of people have really short attention spans, or like they don't think back very long.
Short memories.
Short memories about how long this sort of oppression has been going around. We're talking like since they called banking usury. You know, that's like, oh wow, and you know, we still need to make headway. Well, people need to understand that this is a group about making solutions. We're not just about saying, oh, we're angry. This is about people coming together and forming networks and forming systems around the people and getting our resources where we need them, and taking action and making sure the right actions are being taken in proper instances. And that can be pretty ambiguous, because who knows what instance that is. That's why we have General Assembly. That's why we have working groups. We've come to a point as a society where we can't necessarily trust the things that the authorities are telling us, or that our elected representatives are telling us. We can't trust that they're going to be acting in our best interest. And that's the reason why we're here, and that's why they're angry. Because I think we see that they're not acting in our best interest, and they're kind of upset that we are actually taking the initiative and fixing it ourselves rather than waiting for them to supply some sort of option for us.
I think the everyman who is pissed off and upset about this movement, it's more that they've seen protests in their lifetime, and it's been a very long time before a large, peaceful protest has occurred. Large protests within the past 20 years have generally descended into throwing bleach in a police officer's face, smashing windows, stealing stereos, flipping police cars. And when they see a large group get together, they get scared for that. It's been a very long time since peaceful protest has gotten this large. And they don't realize that it's peaceful, especially with the news coming out of Wall Street, with the police constantly coming in and starting trouble. And so what they hear on CNN is trouble. So when they see protest, they're scared that it's trouble, not that it's peaceful.
And I think also people sort of like when they see a bunch of people who have nothing in common, and then we suddenly become like this mob. Like I've seen us described as druggy, hippie, unwashed mob, and yet, but who's delivering the message? It's sort of like the right wing, and not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with the right wing media, because I personally don't watch it or listen to it or choose to participate in any way of it, because I don't. But for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, because as a member of the General Assembly in Occupy Providence, I don't have that right to speak for the group. And that's very important to understand, that nobody speaks for the entire group. They only speak for themselves.
Yeah, I wanted to make that clear when we were here, that no one here is a spokesperson for the movement. And we're all people approving of it.
Voluntary
But
participants.
the movement is too varied and too wide and too amorphous for one person to voice their opinions.
Autonomous.
Well, why isn't there a leader? This is what I hear a lot. Why isn't there a leader?
Because if you take the leader, you take the movement in a lot of cases. Whereas
There you go.
if it's an autonomous thing and it can work itself, that it'll just keep perpetuating itself, no matter whether we have a leader or not. So even if you don't like a person's word, you take that person out, it keeps going.
And, let me just say this to those that are listening. There is an organization that hasn't had a leader that's been around since, I think, I don't really know when it started, but it's called Alcoholics Anonymous. Runs Alcoholics Anonymous.
Nobody.
A lot of people don't know that. There are no leaders. They have councils only, and they have almost like General Assembly type things, but there is no head. There is no one guy or one woman to knock off. And nobody can even, say they run it. So there are organizations that are leaderless that have been successful and have proven the test of time. Anyone else want to address the leadership issue?
Yeah, I have to take it back to Latin America a little bit, because I think we have a lot to learn as a unified sort of the Americas, not just the U.S. and what we want and what we've seen. And I think that leaderless movements are often very much shunned in the U.S. because we're used to this sort of neoliberal the neoliberal message that the media and the corporations send, which says that it's meritocracy and it's individuals and that's all that matters, and it's not about collectives. And then they have all of their arguments against collectives and how that doesn't actually represent the people's interest. But I think that that's, again, just part of the system that we're trying to fight, or that I'm trying to fight personally. Is this sort of perpetuation of an idea that it's not possible to have it any other way. And it is. There have been collective actions that have been sustainable all over Central and South America that I know of. And it's something that I think I think it's very much the U.S. culture that's been permeated, and we can't, it's like we're a fish in a bowl of water and we can't see the water. So.
Okay. Anyone else want to address that? Okay.
I just want to say that folks out there listening, you're listening to Free Speech Radio on 990 WBOB.com.
Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, so
W. Bob.
right now, today, we are filming a public access television show called Table Talk with We the People of Rhode Island. It's a 1 hour television show. It's kind of like a spin-off of We the People, which is half hour. But basically, we've been doing that show for a while. We're on 6 times a week. And I did get a Facebook reply for all you people saying I gotta go right to Facebook here.
All right.
Because what we do, we usually take calls. No one's calling right now.
Well, they might be listening.
Yep. All right, let me see. Let's go right to Facebook.
Didn't give him a gap to call.
Did you get to
It
announce?
just says there's no drugs down there. That's a bummer.
Oh, who said that? Who said that? I want names.
Let me see. Hold on 1 second.
All right. Who would have even said such a thing?
Let me see.
I can't imagine they would.
Adam Cole.
Yeah, Adam. Drugs are bad.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have another one, or we have a break? Because I want to bring up another issue.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of.
Whoa, let's go.
All right, let's say, yeah, well, you
How
know,
about something controversial?
so as you know, we the people of Rhode Island, we've been going on for like 5-6 years now. We do have a fan base. Like when we first started, it was basically it's all depends on who our followers are, because all we do is just give people a platform. We used to go to meetings at a bar every week.
Yeah, we used to meet in the bar and tape a
Nice.
show.
Really? Which bar?
Good stuff.
Have a giant poster of the Constitution and use it as a backdrop.
Nice.
And we used to have all different kind of people coming up, but it seemed weird because we started off with the Tea Party movement when it first started.
Yep.
With the original with Ron Paul.
Yep.
Before the Republicans hijacked it and turned it into a big mess.
Yep.
Poor Ron. Poor Ron.
Yep. Tell you, he's
a trooper.
I like him. Do you guys like Ron Paul? You know who he is?
Oh, yes.
Libertarian.
I agree with some of
Running
the
for
stuff. Agree with some of it. You know, like everybody else.
Yeah.
But we watched the whole transformation when Obama came into office, and now it just transformed into. It is what it is, I guess, huh? That's all I gotta say.
Madhouse.
Even though there are quite a bit of conservative followers of We the People of Rhode Island,
And of Occupy.
Nice.
yes,
Yeah,
that's what I learned
there's
today.
been a good showing for Ron Paul and the Occupy movement. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was very impressed. I went there and I seen all different kinds of people.
And Ron Paul's favorite argument, end the Fed. I see that quite frequently also.
I think that's the foundation of our problems right there.
A lot of
Me
people do.
personally, but it's like, well, you know, Federal Reserve is unconstitutional before 1913 anyway, until they made that 16th Amendment. But
Well, a lot of people don't know in this country, and I think I brought this up before, that we had riots. We had riots in this country when the Federal Reserve was being formed. That's how much people were against it. And we don't even read this in the history books,
Yeah.
that there was riots all over this country over the Federal Reserve. And that's not taught anymore for some reason.
Yeah. Some reason. I wonder what that was.
But what was taught at the teach-in is that the Fed and the banks are so interconnected that there is no independent source of information for what the banking practices are right now. And that means that there's no possibility for full transparency
Oversight.
because there's no accountability. There's no mechanism to hold them accountable.
Wow.
no, I think I do hear a lot of conservative views about with the Occupy Providence bit. I understand Occupy's point of view, which I encapsulate it all. I truly believe. I think this is fantastic. What's going on? Does some people believe that this is a left side version of the Tea Party? I think it's, for what I've seen tonight, it is. Does all the Occupy movements have the hand signals and all things like that?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
We
pretty
adopted
much,
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to talk over Jay, but we pretty much the basis of the General Assembly is based in almost every Occupy movement that's happening around the world, and it's everyone. From what I understand, each General Assembly is sort of tailored to its group. So there are some that use more hand signals than we do. We've chosen to sort of simplify our shorthand hand signal for what would work best with our group, our General Assembly.
Now, did any of you go to Boston and or New York and see how they operate in order to come here and bring it to the, actually witnessed another structure and brought it here? And
I haven't. We have several members of the General Assembly who have gone to Boston and New York. There were some who were at Boston at its beginning. We have a member who was on the Brooklyn Bridge when it was happening.
Yep.
So yeah, you're going to find that we have members who have traveled to different occupations. We had somebody who said he was at one in California, and I have friends who are currently at Sacramento and San Diego, Cleveland, and Chicago.
Nice. But I was very impressed with how they orchestrated it all and all the different types of people. And I've seen people in business suits with briefcases, and I don't know if you want to call them, hippies, I don't know. There's just so many people.
Burnside Park dwellers.
I was amazed. And it's like, I see a crowd of people around the bottom of the statue, and people are speaking. But it was amazing. I think that everybody should go in there and check it out and
Yes.
hang out. And
I agree.
I agree too.
I think the Tea
I
Party can
agree
definitely
too.
the Tea Party can definitely learn something.
Well, that and the Tea
Did I
Party
just say
may
that?
not. The Tea Party may not want to hear this, but for the majority, they're part of the 99%.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are part of the
Yeah.
people who are struggling against this economy.
And the things they're angry about, we're probably angry about them too. We just need to get together and, make viable, constructive, productive solutions rather than just yell angrily at each other.
Yeah, I think I'd say Tea Partiers come one and all
Yeah.
to our general assemblies and tell
Yeah.
us what you want.
Just
Well,
leave
there
your
was a
shotguns
rumor
at home.
that the Occupy movement was cutting the Tea Party off and even thinking of banning them.
Oh, it's so it's
That
wrong.
was a rumor
Yeah.
that I heard.
No, we want to dispel that.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
General
okay.
Assembly
All right.
has made a
Not
point
true.
not to enact any form of censorship.
No.
As a group, we are nonviolent. We do not condone violent or destructive behavior. It's something that we've been very adamant about. And we are made up of people of different political ideologies. I know how I feel. My own political ideology is definitely different from probably everyone here. And it's very important to understand that we welcome, I know there were Republicans and Democrats, liberals, members of the IWW, the ISO. I know some people will not like to hear this, but there are some anarchists. There are definitely some Tea Party members. I know of at least 2 Tea Party members that are there.
I've seen like 10 of them down there.
Yeah, so it's very important for people to understand that we're not telling people they can't come. We want you to come here. We want you to see what we're about. We want you to even take part in what we're doing. And it's not the occupation of Burnside Park in general is not just about a bunch of people camping out and holding working groups and taking action. We're actually feeding the homeless that are in the park already. I mean, it's really about fostering a community. It's people who've probably never hung out in Burnside Park, who, because its old nickname was Needle Park. I mean, we've chosen to be there because it's central. We've chosen to leave it better than how we found it. We're very respectful that this is a public space. It's not. I mean, it's a public park, probably owned by the state, but everyone has a right to be there.
Yes.
That's one thing I noticed, that the park was absolutely beautifully clean.
Yeah.
There was recycle bins.
Yep.
There was compost buckets
Yeah.
for your food,
Yeah.
because now they have a food beverage stand. But it's all donation. You grab a plate, you put $1 in or whatever. But it's fantastic stuff. It was beautifully clean. I was amazed, and I just know that I listen to talk radio during the day, mostly conservative. I don't think there is really any liberal radio shows, whatever, around. But I know that the Occupy movement is being debunked as a bunch of brainless kids, not knowing what direction they're going, just making us think about something, wanting their college tuitions paid, and every negativity that's being brought out like it's a socialist movement because a socialist banner was hanging up there. So that's what they nitpick. Certain people nitpick on the negativity of it, but there's a whole lot of negativity to any movement, and that's been proven that. But I was very impressed, and I believe everybody, including the rights, the lefts, because I do believe that there is a civil war going on, left versus right, the new American Civil War.
Well, I think it's also very important to understand that I feel personally that this isn't an us against them. There is that talk about the 99% and the 1%. And I think for me personally, and this is my opinion, is that I'm talking about, is that I don't hate people for being successful. I mean, we all have that right as individuals to be the best that we can be. What I find problems with is a system of government or system that a government has put in place that makes it easy for people to take advantage of other people, that creates an unfairness that suddenly marginalizes individuals. That's where my problem is with.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I can see a lot of the skeptics I've talked to say to you, Mark, life's not fair. Sorry. So this isn't. That's that sort of very cynical, very hopeless statement is the kind that I am trying to dispel on a cultural level. And I sort of speak from the social science, artsy standpoint, I guess. That's what my work is grounded in. So I just, it's not that, it's a lot bigger, I think.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger than that sort of idea that we can't have fairness. We can. It's just not in the system.
Yeah.
And
I don't think there are many, if there are any, members of the Occupy movement who, if offered to be successful and have a couple $1 million in the would turn that down. And they're not being disingenuous by that. They would pay their fair share in taxes. They'd be willing to, and this is not just a bunch of kids either. You mentioned everybody thinks it's a bunch of idiot kids. I was at that march Saturday night.
Oh, yeah.
I was 50% of the people were over the age of 50.
Lots of us out there.
Yes.
It was great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
huge.
That was
How
not
big was
just
it?
kids.
I would say a couple of thousand
Yes.
at its peak.
Definitely.
Yeah, there must have been at
Beautiful.
least 2,000.
At
Yeah, it was. I know people have to downplay numbers for whatever reason. They have to downplay numbers. But yeah, it was at least. I would, if it was 1,000, maybe it was 2,000. I mean, it's hard to gauge.
Yeah.
I know
But
it was more
nobody
than
counted.
1,000
Yeah.
because I heard someone counting.
Tons
all
of
the-
people.
Yeah.
Tons of
Yeah.
people.
So many.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
And like what's being said is not just college students.
No.
I'm not a college student. I'm 41 and very proud to say it. So I'm an adult. Like almost. I guess if 41 can be almost middle-aged, then I am almost middle-aged, and I'm very proud to say that. It's not just kids. There are senior citizens
Yeah.
who are taking part. We have senior citizens who are camping out with us, who have chosen to be a part of the occupation, and we have parents with their children spending nights with us. It's not about one group of people over another. It's about a lot of people wanting to share an experience because they have something in common and they want to figure out how to change what's wrong.
Exactly.
How long do
And,
we have for break? Do we all?
You got a few more minutes.
Okay. So this, one point that I'd like to, each of you to address quickly is, so this is not just against rich people, right? Is this just a tirade against rich people?
No, it is not a tirade against rich people.
Okay.
We are about anybody who's about the people, like unity. We're about unity. Rich people are people. They're human beings. We had a conversation about this today. People who are in power are people. They're not like non-people just because we elected them. They're part of our community. And it's. I mean, I read in a book that it's a wise man's job. A bad man is a wise man's job. It's our job as a community to kind of right them. I mean, it's kind of like, that guy's not my responsibility. I can't control what he does, but we can help each other. And so all the rich guy does is all he needs is awareness of what we're doing, awareness of our connection, the people who are being oppressed are feeling right now, which brings us together, bring them up to speed, and get them in with us. And there won't be 1%. It'll be 100%.
Excellent. Anyone else want to address that issue?
I really think that it's not a I hate rich people thing because I consider myself, because of where I grew up and my family's background, rich. And it was really hard for me to overcome that sort of personal boundary that I had. Like, how can I feel okay with doing this movement and being part of it, but also having the privilege that I have? And I think that there's a lot of lack of transparency again in this discussion about privilege, because people are embarrassed, because we're told to be ashamed that we have so much, because people have so little. And I think that's so self-destructive for the cause.
Yes.
And so what I love most about this movement to this point is that they've been so accepting of me overall, and I've been very, very transparent about where I'm from, which is Greenwich, Connecticut.
What? Get out! No. Oh, no.
And
let her in.
So I just wanted to say that as a person coming from that other point of view, like I was able to read a poem at the entertainment section of after the march on Saturday, and it really encapsulated this idea of we're all together and we're all 100%. And I feel totally comfortable putting that forward and pushing back against that 99%, 1% boundary. And to say that in a group of this many people that are so different than me and could so easily just write me off because I'm going to Brown and I'm from Greenwich, aren't. They're listening, and they loved the poem, and they were very appreciative.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
So yeah, amen.
All right.
Amen.
Want to address that?
I don't think it's anti-rich in any way, shape, or form. There is a lot of anti-corporate greed, which
exactly
It's a little different than just
is very different, and anti-people not pulling their fair share.
Yes.
Okay, I got a rebuttal against that. When you say corporate greed, do you mean, because I don't think there's really any corporate greed if it's legal. Is that considered greed, or is that a mismanagement of our politicians?
I have the perfect answer. Like I said before, the people that are supposed to be regulating the financial institutions are completely interlinked with the banks. They're either former bankers or bankers to be. There is no regulation. Everyone's freaking out about too much regulation. It's gonna stump our growth as an economy, and it's like, what are you saying? Come on, there's no independent information. There's none. I just don't it's so clear and obvious, and yet it's the few that have power that don't want to admit to this. So we're trying to keep them accountable, I think, in my opinion.
I don't think people are, they say anti-corporate greed, at least for myself.
Yeah.
That is a bit of a misnomer, because a corporation, its job is to make money. That's what it's there for. And it's a for-profit corporation is there to make money.
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be, but that's its general accepted purpose.
Hello.
However, within the boundaries given it. And there are no boundaries.
Hold on 1 second. Sounds like we got a phone call. Hello, you're on Free Speech Radio on 990WBOB.com. Who's this? Where you from?
Hey, how you doing? This is the Senator.
The Senator. How you doing, Senator?
That's how you introduce yourself. I am the nameless senator.
Senator, how you doing over there?
All right, I was just calling in to check your phone line, actually. I can't hear you. I'm going to have to try to call you back.
Make sure you do, man. Make sure you do.
You still there?
You can't hear us.
He's going to call us back. Couldn't hear.
He's a senator.
Yeah, we don't have enough headphones, unfortunately.
That's okay. I should have brought mine. Wait, I have a pair. Oh my
The
gosh,
Senator
yay.
is a normal host.
He's one of the usual.
Oh, sorry. I thought he was like a real senator. He's like, I am the senator. He's got like the bat suit with like an S on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got
The Senate mobile. The Senate mobile.
No, Senator's a good guy. He's bowed out tonight.
Filibuster left and right.
Everybody goes to Facebook, they'll find out why.
Now, while we're waiting, I ran into several people down there that were telling me how they used to make large sums of money. These were not people that were poor. These are people that had money, and they were burned by the economic collapse, which was caused by deregulation. Nobody, everyone has forgotten that already.
Yeah, mitigated crisis.
First, they went into Congress and they eliminated all the laws that would have put them in jail. And now, that's why no one's going to jail. Everyone's saying, why isn't anyone going to jail? Well, because they went and deregulated first. So now they really didn't commit a crime, which is kind of along the question that you asked. Was it greed if it was within the boundaries of the law? Well, was the economic collapse greed? Was it because it was within the boundaries of the law? The fact that we're all still paying the price for that collapse, you see? They were within the law. They changed the law and then went and followed the law to the T and raped the country.
Here.
So,
yes.
You can be within the law and still operate with greed, in my opinion.
Heck yeah.
Especially when there's a conflation of corporate and federal and state interests.
And man, if you sell 1 million pencils and you make millions of dollars or whatever, millions of dollars worth of some product, is that worth more than the guy who gives your kid an education? Or the guy who keeps your sewage system running and takes your trash off your street so your street doesn't smell like crap? I mean, where are our priorities at? We pay our teachers crap. Look what they go through. Look what we pay for our military, as opposed to our education system, as our research and technology. I mean, what type of society are we fostering here? I mean, it's these are real questions. It's not just corporate greed, but we have a corporate culture that's infecting the American culture and making it so that corporate values are becoming American values, and they're not. Those values are about making money and selfishness, competitiveness. That doesn't really work in communities. It doesn't keep communities together when you're worried about this guy over here one-upping you. You're worried about one-upping this guy. We've got to change the dialogue, change the way we think about the way we utilize our resources, because that's what's driving us into the hole. That's why people are hoarding things. We hoard stuff like gas or water or whatever, property, cats, cat food. And what do you need to do that for? It's not necessary. We're in a community. If you hoard, that means somebody else is not having enough. And that could be next door, it could be around the world, and that person's suffering. And it could sound, what a soft-hearted, tree-hugging hippie guy. He goes in there talking about people's feelings, but people's feelings are real. People are real things. They're not numbers on a sheet. Corporations treat people like numbers. People are people, and that's what we got to treat them.
Now, you discussed about the corporations. We, the people of Rhode Island, happen to have been in a conflict with members of the local union members. You talked about teachers, and I basically believe that the union is basically kind of like a corporation. And it is rather aggressive, and we, the people of Rhode Island, has seen that firsthand. And what now you say, I feel bad for teachers dealing with all these bratty little kids, but there's a lot of parents out there who say otherwise. As in either it deals with they have the summers off, for the amount of work they do, for the amount they're paid, for their contracts with the union or whatever. It's there's a lot of conflicting issues here. Now, how do you guys feel about what the unions do? Do you think it actually progresses America to make it better, or do you think we could possibly do without unions? Because as of now, the private sector union has forced all of our goods to be made in China.
Well, as Occupied Providence, we can't speak towards Occupied Providence's opinion on that. We don't represent the views of Occupied Providence. We're just representing our own personal views. And in my own personal opinion, more power to you. Organize yourself and get yourselves organized around your goals and your specific what you want, what need for your lives. Be conscious that we're in a closed system. We're there's nowhere anybody's gonna go besides the planet Earth. So we gotta treat the planet and our ecology and each other well, and with love and care. That's all I can say about that.
Unions are like anything else on this earth. If it's overdone, they can be a very, very good thing, but they can also be.
All right. We're going to come right back with that after this short break. People out there, we are with Occupy Providence. some individual members of this. It would be the people of Rhode Island on Free Speech Radio here on 990 WBOB.com.
With an occupying army waging war in Iraq and Afghanistan, with military bases and corporate bullying in every part of the world, there is hardly a question anymore of the existence of an American empire. Indeed, the once fervent denials have turned into a boastful, unashamed embrace of the idea. However, the very notion that the United States was an empire did not occur to me until after I finished my work as a bombardier with the 8th Air Force in the Second World War. Even as I began to have second thoughts about the purity of the good war, even after being horrified by Hiroshima and Nagasaki, even after rethinking my own bombing of towns in Europe, I still did not put all that together in the context of an American empire. I was conscious, like everyone, of the British Empire and the other imperial powers of Europe, but the United States was not seen in the same way. When, after the war, I went to college under the GI Bill of Rights and took courses in U.S. history, I usually found a chapter in the history text called The Age of Imperialism. It seemed that American imperialism lasted only a relatively few years. I recall the classroom map labeled Western Expansion, which presented the march across the continent as a natural, almost biological phenomenon. That huge acquisition of land called the Louisiana Purchase gave no hint of anything but vacant land acquired. No sense that this territory was occupied by hundreds of Indian tribes that would have to be annihilated or forced from their homes. What we now call ethnic cleansing. That classroom map also had a section to the south and west labeled Mexican Cession. This was a handy euphemism for the aggressive war against Mexico in 1846, in which the United States seized half of that country's land. The term manifest destiny, used at that time, soon of course became more universal. The violent march across the continent, and even the invasion of Cuba, appeared to be within a natural sphere of U.S. interests. But with hardly a pause after Cuba came the invasion of the Philippines, halfway around the world. The word imperialism now seemed a fitting one for U.S. action. Indeed, that long, cruel war, treated quickly and superficially in the history books, gave rise to an anti-imperialist league. Reading outside the classroom, I began to fit the pieces of history into a larger mosaic. What at first had seemed like a purely passive foreign policy in the decade leading up to the First World War now appeared as a succession of violent interventions. At the very time I was learning this history, years after World War II, the United States was becoming not just another imperial power, but the world's leading superpower. Determined to maintain and expand its monopoly on nuclear weapons, it was taking over remote islands in the Pacific, forcing the inhabitants to leave and turning the islands into deadly playgrounds for atomic tests. When the war in Korea began in 1950, I was still studying history as a graduate student at Columbia. Nothing in my classes prepared me to understand American policy in Asia. It seemed clear to me then that it was not the invasion of South Korea by the North that prompted U.S. intervention, but the desire of the United States to have a firm foothold on the continent of Asia, especially now that the communists were in power in China. Years later, as the covert intervention in Vietnam grew into a massive and brutal military operation, the imperial designs of the United States became clearer to me. In 1967, I wrote a book called Vietnam, The Logic of Withdrawal. By that time, I was heavily involved in the movement against the war. When I read the hundreds of pages of the Pentagon Papers entrusted to me by Daniel Ellsberg, what jumped out at me were the secret memos from the National Security Council. Explaining the U.S. interest in Southeast Asia, they spoke bluntly of the U.S. motives as a quest for tin, rubber, oil. No anti-war movement in the history of the nation reached the scale of the opposition to the war in Vietnam. At least part of that opposition rested on an understanding that more than Vietnam was at stake, that the brutal war in that tiny country was part of a grander imperial design. Various interventions following the U.S. defeat in Vietnam seemed to reflect the desperate need of the still reigning superpower, even after the fall of its powerful rival, the Soviet Union, to establish its dominance everywhere. Was George Bush Sr. heartsick over Saddam Hussein's seizure of Kuwait, or was he using that event as an opportunity to move U.S. power firmly into the coveted oil region of the Middle East? Given the history of the United States, given its obsession with Middle East oil dating from Franklin Roosevelt's 1945 deal with King Abdul Aziz of Saudi Arabia, and the CIA's overthrow of the Democratic Mossadegh government in Iran in 1953, it is not hard to decide that question. The ruthless attacks of September 11th, as the official 9/11 Commission acknowledged, derived from the fierce hatred of U.S. expansion in the Middle East and elsewhere. Even before that event, the Defense Department acknowledged the existence of more than 700 American military bases outside of the United States. Since that date, with the initiation of a quote-unquote war on terrorism, many more bases have been established or expanded. When I was bombing cities in Germany, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and France in the Second World War, the moral justification was so simple and clear as to be beyond discussion. We were saving the world from the evil of fascism. I was therefore startled to hear from a gunner on another crew that he considered this an imperialist war. Both sides, he said, were motivated by ambitions of control and conquest. We argued about it without resolving the issue. Ironically, not long after our discussion, this fellow was shot down and killed on a mission. In wars, there is always a difference between the motives of the soldiers and the motives of the political leaders who send them into battle. My motive was to help defeat fascism and create a more decent world, free of aggression, militarism, and racism. As George W. Bush said in his second inaugural address, "Spreading liberty around the world is the calling of our time." The New York Times called the speech, "Striking for its idealism." We can hardly ask for a more candid, blunter declaration of imperial design, but with assurances that the motive of this influence is benign, that the purposes are noble, that this is quote-unquote imperialism light. The American empire has always been a bipartisan project. Democrats and Republicans have taken turns extending it, extolling it, justifying it. The rhetoric, often persuasive on first hearing, soon becomes overwhelmed by horrors that can no longer be concealed. The bloody corpses of Iraq, the torn limbs of American GIs, the millions of families driven from their homes in the Middle East and in the Mississippi Delta. Have not the justifications for empire so embedded in our culture and assaulting our good sense that war is necessary for security, that expansion is fundamental to civilization, begun to lose their hold on our minds? Have we not reached a point in history where we are ready to embrace a new way of living in the world, expanding not our military power, but our humanity?
This concludes this program broadcast. We the People, a freedom of speech television show. Go to www.wethepeopleofri.org.